Okay, so today we're going to talk about 3 Resident Evil characters that haven't really returned yet, that aren't main characters. So no Jill, no Claire, no one like that. Just the not the optional characters, the side characters, the people you meet along the way, who are still big deals, but not really playable to an extent. There is 3 I have in mind. I'm sure there's more, but maybe a little bonus one to the end if I can find out an idea of where they might pop up again. But without any further ado, let me know your character suggestions down in the comments. Who do you want to see return most that isn't the main character? And without any further ado, let's jump into my 3 where the hell did they go characters in Resident Evil. So first, let's start with a controversial character. Some people loved him, some people hated him, and he didn't really appear in the best game in the series. I'm sure the clues are there by now. This is Jake Wesker. Wesker's son in Resident Evil 6. He has a whole campaign, so it's the new campaign for Resident Evil 6. He was introduced in Resident Evil 6, and he's an interesting character. He's a bit of an asshole throughout most of his campaign, but he does kind of grow a conscience at the end. Honestly, quite liked his campaign. I enjoyed it. Did I like how the game played? No. But honestly, the story of RE6 isn't too bad, especially having Leon and Jake. Chris's campaign is interesting, but Chris, probably the weakest campaign, then Leon, no, then Jake, then Leon, for me, personally. But anyway, you find out that near the end of the game that Jake is Wesker's son, and his blood, his DNA, has antibodies for the virus. You know, he is essentially a walking cure for what is going on. He kind of comes across as a mercenary for most of the game, and he kind of is a mercenary for most of the game until kind of the very end, where he does kind of change a little bit. I would be a lot more interested to see, you know, kind of where he is now and what he's doing now. I do believe that they probably won't continue him because, for the most part, he received a lot of backlash from that game. Like, where did he come from? What the hell's going on with him? It's weird. It's a weird one. But honestly, he's not a terrible character. There's worse characters and other things than him. But the question remains, you know, will he return? Have they canned the character? Will he come back? Who knows? Guess we'll see. Next up, speaking of Resident Evil 6 and Jake's campaign, Sherry Burkin. Interesting character. Obviously, Resident Evil 2, she's a little girl, and, you know, her dad is William Burkin, and Annette Burkin is her mother, and they're kind of responsible for what the hell is going on, for the most part. Birkin has transformed into a monster, and she's trying to get away and find her mum. That's at least the story from the 2 remake. I'm not completely sure if it's the same in the original, but either way, Sherry Birkin started as a little girl in the series and has grown up since then in Resident Evil 6. One thing I'll say about Resident Evil 6 that's pretty good is not only do they kind of let Leon and Sherry kind of reunite, and obviously they know each other, they recognise each other, but not only that, but there's a brief cutscene, I believe it's through Chris or Jake's campaign, when Chris and Jake first meet, that Chris knows about Sherry Birkin because Claire told him about everything that happened, which I think was nice. It's nice that the characters do kind of share things that happen in their games with each other. I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, Sherry is, I believe, in Resident Evil 6 around 27 years old, so one of the youngest of the original cast of the game. She is also, in Resident Evil 6, kind of part of a division of security for the American government. Not exactly BSAA or anything like that, but she is working with the American government, basically. And I think her mission in 6 is to get Jake to back to America or something like that, because she knows how important he is, but she doesn't tell him until like the end of the game, or he doesn't find out till the end of the game, something like that. You have to forgive me if that's completely wrong. I don't really remember Resident Evil 6 that much. But yeah, in terms of her return, you know, we've been talking about how the cast of these games are getting older now. You know, look at Leon and Chris. One of them's late 50s, mid 50s. One of them's mid 40s. They're all old now. Sherry's probably on the younger side of all of the original cast, so it could be a possibility that she comes back and kind of replaces some of these characters, which would be interesting. I do think she'll be back at some point. I don't think Resident Evil 6 will be the last time you see her. I really don't. But it depends on what they decide to do with her and how it makes sense and stuff like that. Again, RE9 is the end of the Ethan Winters storyline, so I don't think they'll introduce a massive character for massive reasons in RE9, but there is a potential that, again, BSAA members will appear in RE9 that we already know of, like Jill, and maybe even others. Barry. Who knows? And last but not least, speaking of BSAA members that have disappeared off the face of the planet since their first appearance, Sheva Alamore. I think that's her name. Resident Evil 5, Sheva is Chris's partner. She is part of the African division of the BSAA, and she kind of enrolled because she found out that Umbrella were doing weird things with her family and kind of people she was close with, and she wanted to fight back, basically. That's her origin story. She is there, obviously, to help Chris in Africa. You know, she's his partner while he's there, and then obviously they find out that Jill is alive because of something that happens before the events of 5, which is covered in DLC and briefly in the main game. You can obviously check that out if you haven't already. I won't spoil anything in case someone's never played that game or is new to the games, but Sheva is Chris's partner in 5. She's part of the BSAA. The story currently with RE9 seems to be setting up a kind of confrontation with the BSAA. Maybe Chris calls in some help from some old friends in the BSAA who he knows will not turn to do bad things. You know, Jill Valentine, Sheva, you know, Rebecca Champ. They're all there. They're all there to potentially come back, and she is definitely one of the people that could come back in any form. Again, there's more likely characters it could be, but she's there. It's an option. Do I think she'll come back at some point? Hopefully. I'm always down to see old characters return, especially if they haven't really had the limelight that much, and they are kind of good characters. I'm pretty sure she had quite a fan following when she was introduced to 5. I think people actually quite like the character, so time will tell. A few quick mentions, you know, side character wise. Ada Wong was cut from Resident Evil 8 for whatever the reason. Everyone seems to think that the DLC will be around her for Village. Maybe they'll put in the content that she had and kind of fit it in elsewhere. In terms of, you know, her coming back, it makes sense that she will eventually. She's a big deal, especially on the Umbrella side of things, and again with Leon as well. So I'd imagine whenever they reintroduce Leon to a, you know, next game in the timeline, she'll be sure to follow. So if she's not in the Resident Evil 8 Village DLC, expect her after that at some point, because if they already had an idea for her and had a character model ready to go and cut it, then there's probably plans for her to be reintroduced at some other point. Barry could come back, you know, again, one of the founding members of STARS, you know, one of the early STARS members, and potentially returns in RE9 to deal with the BSAA. You know, again, these old characters could come back. It's a big deal, and it's a big plot point for all of those characters to come back, so it's possible. And last but certainly not least, this one is an interesting one. There's plenty of theories out there online. There's been theories about this guy for a long time, ever since the game released and you found out what happened to him. Wesker himself. This one is interesting. You know, last time we see him, he's kind of in the volcano getting exploded by Chris's Sheva, so could he come back from that? Is there potential that there's a clone of him? I know that kind of he's probably done something, you know, in the background. He's not a dumbass, he's a smart dude. Obviously the big bad for, you know, the majority of the games. Wesker was a big character originally. The voice actor, there's a little extra information for you. The voice actor for Wesker in RE4 apparently recently came out and accidentally, well, not accidentally, I think he wasn't supposed to say it, but he said it anyway, said he was reprising his role as the voice of Wesker in Resident Evil 4 Remake's Mercenaries mode. And everyone was kind of like, wait a minute, are you allowed to say that? And apparently there was some like leaked concept art of the character in RE4 remake, so he is technically coming back soon. But yeah, there's a lot of characters out there that have kind of disappeared from the series for a while that aren't, you know, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, and stuff like that, that people really do like. Obviously, it's more likely that Jill and Claire will be coming back first, but these characters exist and they could come back. Let me know your thoughts on who you want to see most that's a side character in the series, and how they might return. Thank you all for watching. Remember to leave a like and subscribe for more Resident Evil content, and I'll see you all tomorrow.